Hey, Europe, you're fucked up. I know this is a not very nice way of starting a conversation, but bear with me. I'm going to turn into nicer to you over the journey of the next 10 to 15 minutes. The thing is, you don't get it, and it really pisses me off, but you're arrogant. And that's a painful thing. You know, you think cynicism is a nice way of humor. I think it's a very elite, intellectual, self-complacent masturbating. And it's toxic. And it doesn't get you anywhere. You think you know it all? I think that if you don't know it, you just fight it. You don't want to see it. The ugly truth is, whenever there is a possibility of make something wrong, you hit the nail on the head. And that's terrible. So who am I to tell you? There is an Austrian saying, and it goes in a direction like, I can take any form of criticism as long as it comes from myself. So I'm European, I feel like I can do this. So I understand you well. I think that when we talk about community, it's all about ourselves. It's all about what we do for ourselves and our own very little narrowed down life. And yeah, I come from Vienna, ich bin von Wien, and this is the place where default setting is being annoyed. And if you don't trust me, go to a cafe house in Vienna and experience will prove me right. You will see it's that way. And you might probably say that this is not a Vienna thing, this is not a Graz thing, this is not an Austria thing, this is not a European thing. You see it all over the world, you might be right. But actually, I don't care. You know, I mean, where do you want to go? Where do you want to see yourself? How do you want to spot yourself? How do you want to position yourself? Think about it, and think fast, because there's one thing that we don't have time. We're already so far behind the curve. I've chosen San Francisco as my second home, which is a beautiful city to live, and I commute between Vienna and San Francisco, and I do tours there. I would take up to 10 people on a 5-day program with 5 meetings a day, so they have 25 conversations with people who change the game, who live and work in the Silicon Valley. And it's super, super interesting. People say, like, at the end of the week, this week has changed my life. And with these 25 conversations, there's one thing we talk very little about, and that's technology. And even still, Silicon Valley is 5 years ahead of technology. So if you look at the iPhone, the latest iPhone, the moment it's been enrolled into the market, it's been a 5-year-old piece of technology. So if you bound your way of thinking innovative to that, from day one, you're already behind the curve, you're already behind. And what happens in the meantime? What do you guys talk about? What does Europe talk about? Digital transformation. And I feel like if someone approaches you, says, let's talk about digital transformation, here's my piece of advice, run. Digital transformation doesn't mean that you understand technology, and it's super easy. No, I can flip down these letters. So I've understood technology, I've flipped down the letters. That's super exciting for me, and now it's a TED Talk. But this is not how it goes. This is not how it works. You're not going to be innovative by moving away letters and keeping other letters as now this is an inspiring talk. This is not the way it goes when you take a current phone, a current piece of technology, understand it, turn a business model around it, and believe that you inspire your market. Understanding problems is a good first step to solve problems. And in the Silicon Valley, when you meet people and they introduce themselves to you, they often say, the problem I'm solving is. They identify issues they want to solve. And they get inspired, which is a fun thing, they get inspired by science fiction. So Peter Diamandis, the founder of the Singularity University, loved Star Trek. I don't know, who of you knows Star Trek? By show of hands. That's good. So there was this doctor, it's called Bones, and he had this medical tricorder, I don't know if you can remember. He put that on the patient's head and could show the medical condition of the patient instantly. Peter Diamandis liked this idea and said, you know what? I'm going to give the first company who invents this product $5 million because I love this idea. And Scanadu is they're in FDA approval process. They're going to roll out next year with exactly that product. So what you do is you understand the problem and you ask tech to solve it. And that's a huge difference. And that's a huge difference where we in Europe kind of not understand it. We don't really get it, what that hurts and where this goes. And I would like to talk a bit about exponential curve, exponential growth. I feel like this is the foundation of everything that goes into innovation. Who of you has a feeling about exponential growth by show of hands? Okay, this is a lot of people, I don't. And I spend a lot of time around this, but I think it's super interesting. Exponential growth first, basically, is a curve that's the difference to the linear curve. So you see behind me the linear curve. One company in Austria has potentially 7.5 million customers. They invent something, they do something successfully, plus 7.5 million. Another one plus 7.5 million. Another one plus 7.5 million. Super successful company. And then there is the exponential growing company. They do like 0.02 in doubling, 0.04, 0.08, 0.16, and on and forth. Very frustrating. It's always a zero. And the European companies on that linear aisle, they look down and laugh at the people on the exponential curve. And right now, we're on that knee, because that knee marks the 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and then it crosses the linear curve. And this is actually where this graph is wrong, because after exponential curve crossing the linear curve, this one doesn't exist anymore. It disappears from the market. And then things happen that we don't believe would ever happen. So a lot of people talk about the Kodak case, and I would like to talk about the Kodak case today as well. I'd like to give you some kind of understanding what I believe that the Kodak case is all about. Why did Kodak die? Who of you thinks Kodak died because they didn't understand technology, by show of hands? That's not so many. I'm surprised. Most of the people say in 2016, looking back at 90 whatever, they didn't understand digital, they didn't understand technology. This is why they got away from the market. They understood technology. They invented a digital camera. This guy, Steven Sassoon, this is 1975. He invented a digital camera. What did Kodak do? They fired him. It's interesting. They understood technology, but I believe they didn't understand exponential. Let me explain that for you. Kodak in 1975 said, we print memories on paper, which is a beautiful promise. We love memories. We love paper. We love to look at them. We love to carry pictures of our kids, of our family, of our spouse, whatever, and show it around. We like the idea of printing memories on paper. But there's one element, if you think exponentially on this claim, that's critical. That's paper. And if you think in doubling patterns, we print memories on paper. By the amount of photography that's been produced every day, we would have to deforest the whole world to provide Kodak with paper. Doesn't work. So here's the thing. They did not understand technology. They didn't understand exponential. So if you are a company, entrepreneur, into a company, going to be an entrepreneur, startup, how can you move on when you think in doubling patterns? I would like to give you one more example. I had a conversation, it was super interesting, with a guy, an executive from an aviation company, large European aviation company. And we talked about digital transformation. And he said, look, Niki, this brought us over the past 5 years or 10 years with quite a success. And I said, well, let's pretend you've spent $10 billion in the past 10 years to be successful. In the next 5 years, you'll have to spend $20 million to get the same effort. In the next 2.5 years, you have to spend $40 billion. And on and on. This is kind of how exponential goes. You just look at the chart from the other side, at the slide from the other side. So you're doubling the investment to come half as far. This doesn't work. You can't double spendings all of the time. So you have to go in a different understanding. You have to go in a different perspective how you see things. And that being understood, I think that technology is not the problem, not the solve of the problem that we have. One more example. That's something, so the automotive industry is super, super scared of what's going to happen, what's happening right away. And we have 111 car brands today, 60 of them in China, and a lot of them will disappear from the market. So they're kind of scared. And they, taking legacy companies, they produce cars with beautiful engines, nice seating, great driving experience. They put computers in the cars because they believe that computers enhance the driving experience. Whereas Tesla understands that there's problems on the streets, and computers solve our problems. So let's produce a computer, mount 4 wheels on the computer, and see where it goes. And that's the difference. That's why a company like Tesla and all the others who focus on the problems that we have will move on, will be existing, and the legacy companies will have a hard time. It's not about electric, it's not about if the vehicle is electric or not. It's about what kind of problem do we solve with what we do. It's quite interesting that Tesla, the Model S, it knows to drive, it knows autonomous driving. And that was actually a software upgrade overnight. So no one came to the car and mounted cameras and sensors. That was an update overnight, and the car was driving autonomously. And actually you can buy, so if you own a Mercedes or a BMW, you can buy all these cameras, but you have to pay for them. With the first Model S, all of these features, all the hardware that's necessary to autonomously drive the car was already in the car. So what they did, they had like this computer and driver decision comparison. What decision does the driver make? What decision would the computer make? They get closer and closer because the computer learns from the driver. Once it's matched, and the computer would make the same decision as the driver would have made over a period of time of observation with feeling safe about it. They just have to release it. And the old car makes, where you have to pay to get all these options, they're not even able to retrofix it. So you can't even install the cameras afterwards. So if you have your car and it costs a lot of money and it's not able to self-drive, no one will sell it when you want to sell it. And how would you buy a car for a car company that you can't get rid of anymore? So there are a lot of things involved in understanding technology versus understanding problems. And changing the mindset on what is my criteria of being successful. Is my criteria of being successful making a lot of money? Laughing at Tesla, because until a very short time from today, Tesla lost $4,000 on every Model S spent. Unfortunately, they start making money recently, which gets them even more nervous. The legacy companies get even more nervous about that because they lost the argument that Tesla doesn't even make money. But until then, they were laughing at Tesla, said, you lose money. Amazon doesn't make a penny since they were running business. And the old companies just laugh at them while they get disrupted. So it's all about solving and understanding, problem solving like a data company. And I'd like to go through another example, and that's, for me, a very interesting example, and that's traveling. We all love traveling. We all want to be somewhere, but we don't want to go there. We hate the luggage, the carrying the stuff. The luggage is the pain factor of passengers, of airports, of airplane companies. It's terrible because it always causes delay, it's weight, you sweat, it's annoying. So what did this company do? What's the solution? They actually invented this smart tag. And what you do with it, you can check in at home, you shove it at the airport through the security gate, and you don't have to take care of it. Next step will be they pick it up at home, and wherever you go, you will find your stuff already in the shelf, in the closet, and you don't have to think about this. So this is a nice feature for travelers, but actually, what's interesting about it is that this company will be the one company in the world who knows the most about traveling people. No other company has as much information about people who travel as this company, because they know how much you carry, where you go, who you take with, all these kinds of things, information. With this information, they might offer services that are reasonable for travelers. So with this kind of being in the Silicon Valley and running around, and these are just a few examples, there are so many more, I've assembled some kind of things that work for me. I'd like to share them with you, the 10 rules, the golden rules, and some might work for you, some not. One, allow serendipity. Serendipity is doing something that is unplanned. You came here, you didn't know the speakers. You have conversations with people right next to you, ask them, and I'd encourage you to find someone and say, hey, this is me, this is what I'm doing. And as an answer, you should say, you should speak to that person. And create a new momentum, create a new connection. This is serendipity, super, super interesting. Unlearn. We Europeans, for us, it's so important to know things, to have an opinion toward things. And I've started doing something which is super interesting. Whenever a person asks me, have you read that book? Did you watch that movie? Did you see that person? Have you been on that place? I respond no. Even though I might have. But with responding no, I get a fresh perspective on something that I know already, and I leave the conversation with higher knowledge as before. If I say yes, I end the conversation. Because what would you tell me if I say, I watched the movie? Yes. Okay, cool. There is no follow-up. If I say no, you would feel like, well, there's something I like about this movie, and then you learn. It's hard for us because there's an ego thing attached to it, not knowing stuff. But if you encourage yourself to let this go, you will grow a lot. Fail. This is the most misused and misabused term taken from Silicon Valley to Europe. This fail fast, fail forward. You might have heard about this. And I tell you, if you want to do something and one person says, don't make a mistake, the other person says, make a mistake as fast as possible. Either way, you're focusing on mistakes. And unless you're in the failure business, which most of the people are not, you should focus on what you want to do and just take the failure part out of the equation. And this is how we in the Silicon Valley understand the failure policy. Not make your mistakes fast. Do what you want to do. Follow it. Disregard the failure option. Done is better than perfect. There's this perfectionism thing that we already heard before, where people are so keen about being perfectionists. Here's the ugly truth about perfectionism. If you look for the best solution, you spend your life looking. You're not going anywhere. limits. You know what? Just don't give a shit. I come back from these tours. I speak to people. They say, like, we have restrictions. We have laws. We have 7.5 billion people. We can't do more than that. Why? If your judgment of being success is money, I would like to quote Peter Diamandis again. He said, if you want to be a billionaire, you have to change the life of 1 billion people. Which is a very impactful thought. And if you open up yourself to thinking that big, you also might come to other solutions than if you always limit yourself down to 7.5 million or 100,000 or legal restrictions. 6, you can't download experience. Don't compare your chapter 1 with my chapter 20. This happens all of the time. People see something successfully, they want to hop on and don't go through the shit. You know, they want to do the ugly part of it. You have to go through this. But it's a nice path, it's a nice journey, you learn a lot. 7, stop reading books about your future. I have so many friends in marketing of big corporations that tell me about these inspiring books, and they read all of them and then said, oh, okay, I asked them, what did you implement from this book? And I said, nothing. And then they just tell me the next book. And if you read a lot of books, you gain a lot of knowledge, but very little wisdom. But if you do something and try it and figure out how this works for you, you are the one who gets a lot of experience that's really important for your personal development. 8, don't be the Tinder off. I hear that so much with someone coming up with an idea, we're the Facebook off, we're the WhatsApp off, we're the Tinder off. As long as there is the Tinder, people will always buy the Tinder, not the Tinder off something. Find your own positioning. Find where you want to be. Don't try to be a copycat of something already existing. Don't try to orient yourself around something people have seen already. This is not very inspiring. 9, be ready to face headwinds. Doing something people haven't done before means that you're going to be very lonely. When I started with the TED program in 2010-ish, 2010, I had an advertising agency, and we had a tough time. We lost a client, we lost a lot of money, and I was investing myself in TED, and people said, this is a beautiful idea, it's really, really nice, but hey, you have to focus on your company, otherwise you'd lose it. And yes, I lost it, I had to close it this year. But with following what I believe made sense, many, many more things opened up for me. And what I do today is way more fun and way more fulfilling and inspiring for me and the people I work with than what I've done before. And yes, I lost the company. And 10, you're always as good as the last thing that you have done. Don't carry your success stories through your life. No one cares about what you've achieved 5 years ago, 6 months ago. If you've done a good thing, enjoy it, celebrate it. But if the next thing that you've done went south, people will judge you by that. And I know this sounds terrible. This sounds like, look, I'm not sure if I still should go for whatever I want to. Well, here is my invitation. It's a beautiful journey. And just go for it. It's really, really a nice thing to have these experiences, to learn from them. And if you feel it that this is the right direction, just go there. As I said before, you're going to face headwinds, but you're going to have a lot of fun time. Thank you very much.